Right, well, good morning everyone and welcome to the Finance and Corporate Standing Committee meeting of Council, Wednesday the 18th of November. I'll now call the meeting open at 10:46am. We have no leave of absence or apologies, so I'll move straight through to call on Councillor Duff to recognise the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. Thank you, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to acknowledge country and the traditional owners of the land where we meet this morning, the Waka Waka people, and acknowledge the elders both past, present and emerging. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Well, we'll move on to item 4, declarations of interest in relation to the items that are listed on your agenda here today. Does any councillor have a prescribed or declarable conflict of interest in relation to the items stated on the agenda? Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, on the agenda in item the Australia Day rounds, 5.3, I'm chair of the Kingaroy Australia Day Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Mr CEO, would you mind just giving us some guidance on that? So Councillor Potter has disclosed that she's chair of the Australia Day Committee, item 5.3 on the agenda. Is that something we need to put through as a declarable conflict of interest?
Being an executive member of the committee, I would think she would be a step out.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillor Potter, are you comfortable with that? We'll be asking you to leave the room during that item. Good, thank you. So, Councillor, just for the records, Councillor Potter has declared a conflict of interest in relation to 5.3 in relation to the Community Australia Day event sponsorship, as she is chair of the Australia Day Committee and will be leaving the meeting for that particular matter. Okay, on to item 5.1, which is the... Oh, sorry, Councillor Shoemaker, my apologies.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I was just chasing some advice. I've been supporting Councillor Potter with the Australia Day Committee, attending meetings as a member, but not in an executive capacity. So I don't think I've got a conflict, but I just thought I might raise it just to confirm.
Certainly. Thank you, Councillor. Members fine, executive is the issue. So if you were Deputy President, yeah, we may have a discussion, but yeah, member fine. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr CEO. Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker, for such. And if we could, I'll just record that Councillor Shoemaker has raised that matter, and CEO Mark has clarified that she is not an executive member. She is a member only, and as such, there is no conflict of interest. Okay, so we'll move on to item 5.1, and I'm pleased to now deliver the Social and Corporate Performance, Finance and Information Communication Technology Portfolio Report, and my report can be found at item 5 on the agenda. So on records management, the Public Records Act of 2002 governs record keeping for council and ensures that public records are made, managed, kept and if appropriate preserved in a usable form for the benefit of present and future generations. The Act specifies record keeping requirements that council must comply with, specifically how records should be created and managed, what records need to be kept, by who and why, when records can be disposed of, and who authorises disposal of records. Strong records governance results in improved transparency and accountability, informed decision-making, management of business risks, and the reduction of costs through greater business efficiency. Over the last 3 months, there has been a considered focus on Council's hard copy retention records in storage, with the processing of 550 archive boxes of finance, infrastructure and building records. The day-to-day operations within the records management function of Council has resulted in registering 1,410 hard copy documents and 2,878 electronic documents. Customer contact. Council's Black Bud office offers a valued range of services to the local and wider community. In addition to council inquiries/library services, the small dedicated team of customer contact officers provide services on behalf of the Queensland Government, the Department of Human Services, and in October was also a pre-poll location for the state election. During October, the customer contact officers at the Black Bud office processed 172 Queensland Government applications, such as vehicle registrations, 24 inquiries for the Department of Human Services, and processed 1,283 pre-poll votes for the state election. On to finance. First of all, rates. Rates are in the process of following up on outstanding rates balances, with reminder notices being prepared and sent in preparation for the sale of land in arrears for properties with 3+ years rates overdue. preliminary report included in the November Council meeting agenda, and new and replaced water meters are being entered in preparation for the 6 monthly water meter readings, which are due to commence late this month. State government pensioner subsidy claim is also being calculated in order to receive reimbursement. On to procurement. Council procurement is in the process of evaluating offers received during the refresh of the pre-qualified panels for wet hire, dry hire and road and quarry materials as part of Council's panel refresh opportunity provided on an annual basis. Successful applicants will be awarded to the pre-qualified panels within the next fortnight. Council has also recently conducted an expressions of interest process for the establishment of a panel network of healthcare providers that have capacity to provide services to Council for a range of medical needs, including but not limited to pre-employment medical examinations, injury management, vaccinations and toxicity screening. Submissions to the expression of interest have been evaluated and candidates shortlisted for an invitation to tender. The centralisation of procurement across Council is a current work in progress. This major organisational change will be implemented in a staged approach, with the first stage being the development of a working committee to assist with the implementation across the organisation. Individual department requirements, concerns and risks need to be identified and addressed, mitigating risk to the organisation. Finance, as at 31 October 2020, recurrent revenue is trending high year to date compared to budget due to the 6 monthly rates being levied during August, as well as annual invoicing done for rentals, animal registrations and food permits. Increases in planning applications have also contributed to this variance. This percentage variance will slowly decrease over the next few months. Recurrent expenditure is also trending slightly high compared to budget due to minor timing of yearly invoices such as land valuations, insurance, fleet registrations and IT licences. Additional expenditure for disaster management expenses, which has offsetting revenue impacts monthly percentages, however, will be budgeted for in the next budget revision. Council has $45.5 million in cash, with all ratios within the target benchmark, except the current ratio due to the higher cash levels. I would note there that we're actually above the current ratio, not below. So that's a good position to be in, not a bad one. Okay. Rates in arrears is sitting at 11.52% with 1,525 assessments with rate arrangements in place. Capital expenditure, including commitments, is sitting at $15.187 million, which is tracking on target at 33%. Actual expenditure, excluding commitments, to date is $8.196 million, which is tracking low at approximately 17%. The finance team are currently finalising the federal assistance grant return due this month, along with an analysis of existing loans in relation to the opportunity given by the department to consider refinancing at a lower interest rate. The findings from this work will be presented at a council workshop in the near future. I do believe that workshop has now been booked in. Right, so with that, it's my pleasure to conclude the report, and I would hereby move that the report be received for the information of Council. Thank you. Do we have a seconder for such? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillors, any questions in relation to the report? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just a quick question. I think I vaguely remember that rates and arrears were actually sitting higher. I thought we had, it says 11.52% at the moment, but I thought last year may have been around 14, I think, and I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you're correct, Councillor, that is correct. These ones here we're looking at in particular are the 3 years and over that will be taken to the council meeting for discussion next week. With a view, yes, to get direction from council. Our target is 7%. Yes, so we are tracking above target there at the moment.
Yeah, again, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. That's an excellent question. And thank you, General Manager. So just confirming, we're at 11.5% 11.52% in rates in arrears at the moment. Our target is, of course, 7%. We do normally sit around that 7%. I believe we're normally quite good in this space, but we have some rates that are now beyond the 3-year term, and council will be moving at some point in time to attend to those appropriately.
That's correct, Mr Mayor. And also, as part of the financial report at the council meeting, we'll give you statistics and comparative data as part of the financial report at the council meeting. Councillor.
Thanks very much, General Manager. We look forward to receiving that information next Wednesday's ordinary council meeting. Councillor Duff.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to commend the staff on the job with the archives. I bumped into two of our staff who had come in late at the Mergen office when I was finishing up there about 4 o'clock, and they had been 2 days in that building next to the Baido building, and it was like a sauna in there. Because there's and it was on the 2 hottest days that we've had, and yeah, they just did an awesome job. So I just want to have a big shout out to all of those hard workers who went out and did those challenging jobs, because I know that particular building has been sort of, nothing's happened to it since amalgamation, and so there was dust, and it wasn't a pleasant job. So yeah, big shout out to the girls who have participated in that particular project.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. And of course, it's a job that is often goes sight unseen and therefore not always noticed and recognised. And I'm very pleased that we've been able to present that in our report today to acknowledge the work done by the records team. It's not the most exciting job, but I know they take it very seriously because they understand just how important records management is to this organisation. General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Duff. I'll pass that on, certainly, to the team. And I also want to compliment the team because the supervisor actually videoed the content and showed me. So it was very impressive that they did get that work done and under very difficult circumstances. And they've done an amazing job of clearing not only in these external containers and that with all of these archived these records, but also internally here they've cleared. So there's been a great deal of work done, and the supervisor we've organised, or councillor, beg your pardon, Manager Carolyn here has organised for a visit to the State Archives for our supervisor. After all the years that she's been in charge, she's never visited that, so they're going to host her for a day or maybe 2, and they've provided us with an agenda where they're happy to entertain her and provide her with a little bit of background and where the files are actually kept and how they're dealt with. And so I just think it's very well earned. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, General Manager. And it would be, if you could be so kind as to bring back to the following standing committee after that visit, maybe some photos and a little bit of information from Supervisor as to how that went. Could I also suggest to Council, just in response to Councillor Duff's comments, that we ask General Manager if you would be kind enough to draft a letter to the records management team to go out under the CEO's signature, if that's okay, Mr CEO, acknowledge and thanking them for the tremendous work that they've done under very difficult circumstances. 550 archive boxes rolls off the tongue very easily, doesn't it? But you can stop and think for a little while. That's a mountain of paperwork. So if you could do that, we'd be very pleased. Thank you. Okay, those in favour of acceptance of the report for the receipt of council? Passed unanimously. Thank you all. On to item 5.2. And so we have in front of us a copy of the Finance and Corporate Standing Committee Terms of Reference, and I'll now hand over to Mr CEO. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll be very brief. These are the same as the other two. Report going to next week's meeting will move the executive, as spoke about last week, from communities to bring it across to finance. So we'll have the economic portfolio report at this one as well. So we'll have 2 portfolios for infrastructure, 4.5 for community and 2 for finance and exec. Which will spread it out a little bit more. The other part with this one is that because Finance and Corporate looks after all the policies. You'll see the policies in this meeting today. So today, all the recommendations that the committee recommends to council, they still go back to the general next week. So you're not actually adopting the policy today. What it does is just, again, puts it another step, putting it out in the public domain. And if anyone wants to have a read, hopefully we'll have whatever discussion today, but they all go through to the general for adoption next week. So it's just an extra step in the process to give them that little bit more visibility.
Thank you, Mr CEO. And of course, just confirming what our CEO has articulated there, that terms of reference for this standing committee are such with all standing committees that they are recommendations that then have to go up to the ordinary meeting of council on the last Wednesday of each month, and that is the decision-taking point. So even though something could be recommended from here, it is certainly still able to be overturned or amended at an ordinary meeting of council, which is the ultimate decision-making point for council. So thank you for clarifying that for Mr. CEO. So that being the case, I would now move that the Finance and Corporate Standing Committee terms of reference be received for information. Do we have a seconder for such? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Passed unanimously. Item 5.3 now can be found at 12 on the agenda. Councillor Potter, we'll now ask you to leave the meeting. Thank you very much. Okay, at 12, item 5.3 is the additional round for applications to Community Australia Day event sponsorship, and the officer's recommendation is that council approve to open an additional round for applications to the Community Australia Day event sponsorship category within council's community grants program commencing 23 November and closing 21 December 2020. Now, should such be resolved, again, Mr. CEO, that's a recommendation that will need to go up to the next ordinary meeting for proper resolution. Would that be correct?
That's correct. And with the timing of these, it still allows us to put those into next week's agenda.
Oh, good. Good. Thanks, Mr. CEO. Okay, so I'll move here now that council adopt the recommendation to open an additional round for applications to the Community Australia Day event sponsorship category within Council's Community Grants Program commencing 23 November and closing 21 December 2020. Do we have a mover for such? Thanks, Councillor Jones. Okay, does any councillor wish to speak for or against the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question just around the dates. So just mindful of office closing. So I just wanted to check that we could actually deliver on that before Australia Day.
Thanks, General Manager.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, I'd just like to, I beg your pardon, I thought this may have been adopted today. We'll have to move that commencement date, the 25th, beg your pardon, from the 26th, is it? 26th of November, where it's got here, it creates, commencing the 26th of November, and we'll have to move the closing.
Thank you, General Manager. I'm happy as the mover of the recommendation to amend the motion that council recommend commencing 26 November and closing 21 December. Councillor Shoemaker's question, are we able to deliver on that in light of the Christmas period, 21 December as a closing date?
Yes, Councillor Shoemaker, I've been assured we can. It's within our range. Thank you.
Mr. CEO has also just clarified that we don't shut until Christmas Eve, so that will still give us time to accept those applications. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's really important that the councillors and the media get this message out, because there'll only be probably those committees that run Australia Day would only have probably one meeting at even if they do have a meeting, to let the community to actually ratify that they can apply for a grant. So the timelines for actually community groups is very, very tight.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. Mr. CEO, would you mind just articulating that to the media team if we can get some really good, strong media around this? General Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Duff. Yes, that's already been attended to. Operationally, the staff will physically contact every non-for-profit organisation that has previously applied to alert them of this next set of rounding, because normally it's only 2 per year. So it's sort of contrary to what the policy says, but because of the exceptional circumstances with COVID, now we're giving the organisations the ability to reapply again, which I think is a very generous thing on behalf of council, and the staff are only too willing to deliver this project.
Thank you, GM. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. General Manager O'May, would you mind inviting, if you could be so kind, to bring back in Councillor Potter? Thank you. Okay, so while we're waiting for Councillor Potter, we'll just turn over to page 14 of our agenda. It's item 5.4, which is the adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Customer Service Charter. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Now that you're back in the room, councillors, this item does, in my view, and I've had conversation with Mr. CEO, is a very important initiative for our council. It's very important that we get this right. It's very important that we give the staff the appropriate time to get the feedback from council. You get the feedback from the community. We articulate that through to the organisation, and then we're able to then formulate policy around that. As such, I would like to move that this agenda item lay on the table until the next standing committee of Finance and Corporate for the month of December. Do we have a seconder for such? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Does any councillor wish to speak for or against? Oh, it's procedural. Okay, it's procedural. So, Mr. CEO, we can push that through. So that'll be accepted. Okay, so yep, vote. Yep, everyone comfortable with that? Okay, I'm a little bit rusty around, a bit green around my procedural stuff. That's why I'm pleased you're always here, Mark. So we will leave that lay on the table until the December standing committee meeting. Okay, item 5.5 and 7-0. Yep, unanimously. Everyone supported that. And can I just say thank you, Manager Cowan, for the work you've done so far, and we'll look forward to seeing the recommendation come back for the next standing committee meeting. 5.5 is the notice to repeal South Bennett Regional Council resolution minute numbers 1732, 2080 and 2077. I'll hand over to Mr. CEO shortly, if I could, but I'll firstly just move, yes, Mr. CEO, so I'll move the motion that in accordance with section 262 of the Local Government Regulation, the following resolutions be repealed, and they are item 9.21 of the General Meeting on 27 May 2009 in relation to Employee Assistance Program Policy. That's minute number 1732. We've got HR 63362 Exit Interview Policy, which was minute number 2080, and HR 533519 Corporate Rehabilitation Policy, which was minute 2077. All of those I got back from 2009. So I'll move that. Do we have a seconder for such? Thank you, Councillor Potter. I might now hand over to you, Mr. CEO, just provide some explanation. Thank you.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, as part of the whole systems and particularly the policy reviews, we've actually incorporated these. One of the things we find with multiple policies is that people have to go to several different spots to find information, and they have to cut and paste literally two different policies together. On page 23 of the agenda, it's a very short rationale, but it lists where all those have been picked up into other policies, so they've been consolidated into single or unified documents. So what that does is then when a manager or staff member or anyone needs to access that information, it's all in the one spot. So it's just rationalising our policy framework, tidying it up, making it a lot easier to use and making it simpler for the managers to do their job.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Does any councillor have further questions in relation to the matter? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really do recognise that, getting these policies right means efficiencies for our council, so I'm fully supportive of this. I think being able to simplify and streamline our systems is a good thing, so just want to acknowledge the work that's gone into it, and thank you for bringing it to the table and continuing this project.
Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Thanks, Mr. CEO. Those in favour? Thank you all. Resolution passed unanimously. We go on to now item 5.6, which is adoption of Council's Defence Service Policy. Statutory 013 can be found at 30, and the the South Burnett, the recommendation here is that the committee recommends to council that the South Burnett Regional Council Defence Service Policy Statutory 013 be adopted as presented. That is presented there for you councillors. You've had some time to look at that. So I'll therefore move such. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Right, councillors, questions? Anyone wish to speak for or against? Mr. CEO?
The only one is that we've been and probably strengthening an employer choice for the reserves and the Defence Force, and very much I'll continue to look in that space, or defence friendly, I suppose, for want of a better way of putting it. This policy hasn't had a tidy up since 2009, so when it was adopted, so it's way long overdue, and it's just bringing it up to spec.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. And of course, the summary here makes it clear that council is required to comply with the legislation governing employees who are members of the Australian Defence Force Reserves, and as such, the adoption of the Defence Service Policy will ensure that council meets its obligations under the Defence Reserve Service Protection Act of 2001 and the Queensland Local Government Industry Award State of 2017. Right, that being the case, those in favour? Thank you. Motion passed. The committee will now recommend that to council for consideration at the ordinary meeting. Moving on to 5.7, adoption of council's trading on local government controlled areas, facilities and roads policy statutory 023 at 36. The officer recommends that the committee recommends to council that the South Burnett Regional Council trading on local government controlled areas, facilities and roads policy statutory 023 be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover for such? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Right, councillors, questions? Anyone wish to speak for or against, or have any questions? The document is as tabled.
I just had one question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
I just was hoping, because I understand we've got local laws around this as well, so I just wanted a little bit more clarity around, if some examples of when this policy might be enacted could be provided, just a little bit more information about this policy in itself and how we as a council actually ensure that people are operating in accordance with the policy.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Mr. CEO, General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is GM O'May. This is in his area of expertise there with vendors.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor. So this probably guides our compliance officers around this space. So it's really dealing with the itinerant vendors that look to be selling their wares on council controlled roads. So it's only looking at roadsides, so not on private property. The difference in, or sort of probably key things to mention with this one is looking at, and this is consolidating from the previous council. So we the policy allows for those itinerant vendors, so people can move around, the ice cream van, but it basically helps us to regulate that we don't support the standing stalls. So someone set up as a permanent site on a property. So we've got a couple of historical ones which the policy outlines that council's okay for them to remain because of the historical significance. So it probably provides that guidance to someone who's looking at establishing something inside. Or we've got the peanut vans that they're located on the road reserve. So we've, as a council, this policy confirms that we're okay with those ones to store, but we don't want a proliferation of those things on the footpath. So you've got pedestrian issues and whether it be line of sight issues and that. So yeah. But the itinerant ones, if they still need to come get back and get permitted. So it's just a head of power that provides guidance around which the local law is where it's enforced through. So this is really the policy, gives the background, and the local law is our compliance officers can enforce.
Thanks, General Manager, and I'll just refer to there in scope, item 2 in the policy. I think that's clearly stated there that no, regular use of a land area by a mobile food van or temporary facility may trigger the requirement to obtain town planning approval for a permanent structure. Council is generally not in favour of this type of development, so we emphasise there, as the General Manager has pointed out, regular use of a land area for those itinerant users. Thanks, General Manager. Councillor Shoemaker, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to confirm, so it doesn't actually support, commercial operators who are operating illegally on council-owned land. Like, it's not in relation to that, no. No, it's in relation to existing agreements or arrangements with historical arrangements, and there's provision now in the system if somebody else wanted to start another coffee van or something like that.
Yeah, so probably just to clarify that, so if we had someone looking at establishing a permanent coffee van on a roadside somewhere, then the policy is guiding us that as a council we wouldn't support that. We would be seeking that to go onto a private commercial block of land, so not using Council's Road as their commercial base where there is, they wouldn't be paying rates. There's potential issues. So it's really that policy position that the people can be aware of.
Yeah, if we could also just going to reiterate there that the objectives are to consider matters such as whether there is in fact whether the business activities operated from fixed premises are sufficient to meet public demand. It goes to whether the grant of the approval will result in substantial competition between the applicant for the approval and operators of business activities operating from fixed premises in the local government area. So clearly, General Manager, those considerations around the impact on pre-existing fixed businesses are part of the approval process that council staff go through. Councillor Duff.
Just to clarify, from my belief of the existing policy, it was to do with people coming in, like you say, competing with existing businesses. But I think if someone wanted to go out onto a back road, a council back road and sell, oranges that they've grown, I think that we still allow that. Is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we allow the mobile itinerant vendors, so it's really just the establishment of those permanent sites we don't allow. But under the policy, it isn't that you can go out and just set up permanently somewhere because that brings other issues, even such as toilet amenities. If you've got a standing stall somewhere, set up basically permanent or semi-permanently. But yeah, the background is some of it is that competition, but it's also about those health and amenity and safety issues about not establishing. But most of the mobile vendors, like the coffee vans and that, they are set up to move from site to site to site. So, hopefully that clarifies.
Yeah, thanks, General Manager. Clarifies the matter. Okay, those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you all. Passed unanimously. Let's move on.
Mr. Mayor, too, if there's any specific questions, just if you particularly, because it'll go back to next week's meeting, so if there is something specific that you want a more detailed, flicker through, please, and we'll try. But just the offer.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. CEO. So councillors can, certainly take time to read it again, consider it again, and put through any questions to General Manager O'May between now and the general meeting, where the matter will be considered and decision made at that point in time. The next item is the adoption of Council's Workplace Health and Safety Policy, Statutory 015, that's at 43, and we have a recommendation there that the committee recommends to Council that the South Bennett Regional Council's Workplace Health and Safety Policy, Statutory 015, be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover for such? Thanks, Councillor Duff over here. Seconder, Councillor Shoemaker, thanks very much. Okay, let's open it up to discussion. Councillors, questions, concerns in relation to the document at hand?
Just, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to confirm, it seemed pretty well, very similar to the last document, so I just wanted to confirm what the updates really were. It was just a review from the looks of things, and yeah, just wanted to confirm.
Thanks for the question. Very much a review. It's 2-year cycles up, and so it's just to make sure that it's current, literally.
Thanks, Mr CEO. Okay, those in favour? Okay, recommendation's been passed unanimously. Okay, 5.9, adoption of Council's discovery, handling and management of human remains, policy statutory 016. Right, okay, that one will slow me down. Let's go on to, let's go to page 48. Okay, so the officer's recommendation is the committee recommends to Council that the South Burnett Regional Council discovery, handling and management of human remains policy statutory 016 be adopted as presented. So would someone like to move support for that recommendation? Thanks, Councillor Henson. The seconder for such. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Does any councillor or staff member wish to shed light on the matter for discussion? Someone put their hand up for that? Thank you, Councillor Manager Jarvis or someone. Manager,
I was going to say I'll go first.
Thanks, Mr. CEO.
Yeah, there's just mine's very. It's councils will note from the date, original date of adoption, it was 2009. So again, it was long overdue for its tidy up. Actually read it with great interest and great detail and gave my feedback back to Carolyn. We do have occasions, and I'm probably now stealing general managers, I may. Regrettably, we do have occasions where both historic sites and also modern day sites, for want of a better term, where we do come across, and we have had staff, so you have the whole counselling and everything else, and so the policy is basically to give guidance in that space as well and make sure that we comply historic sites with any cultural heritage dealing with remains. Happy to have anyone else help out, but that's it's to bring it up to standard. It is actually one that you don't think of very much, but it's the business of council that people don't see. We do end up in this space probably more regularly than what people would think.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. CEO. General Manager O'May, did you want to add to that at all?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good summary. Yeah, it is an old policy that we had to renew. One of the key things we have to consider now is the Human Rights Act is probably been introduced since a lot of these policies has been developed. So as part of the policy review, that's an important 20-something on the principles that we have to consider when we're looking at these, particularly something like this. So we just need to make sure that we are looking at those human rights principles. But again, guidance from DATSIP on the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander provisions that we are looking at. So yeah, it's as CEO said, it's one that we hopefully don't have to look at very often, but it's just to have something there that's in place.
Yeah, thank you, General Manager. And clearly this policy is aimed at putting a very robust policy framework and set of guidelines together that take into consideration those 23 human rights and also limit further disturbance. In doing so, limit further disturbance and provide procedures for the proper management of such remains. General Manager Jarvis.
Yes, Mr Mayor, it's just to highlight to Council as well is that our men are subject to external works, and a lot of times you'll note in that policy there about preserving a crime scene as well. So that's very important for them to be educated in that space, especially dealing with the police or that. So it's very culturally it's an important policy, and also as far as any crime scenes or that, very important.
Thanks, General Manager. That's very important as well. Okay, councillors, so we have a recommendation there. It's been moved by Councillor Henson, seconded by Councillor Potter. The council recommends this policy to this committee. Recommends this policy to council. Those in favour? Very good. So the recommendation has been passed unanimously. Item 5.10 is adoption of the South Burnett Regional Council Councillor Conduct Complaints Investigation Policy. Can be found at 54. We have a recommendation that the committee recommends to council that the South Bennett Regional Councillor conduct complaints investigation policy statutory 028 be adopted as presented. We have someone move that, please. Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. We have a seconder. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Potter, thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll open it up for discussion. Questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Duff, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on 3.4.1 on page 57, I'm just wondering, 3.4.1, just wondering, it says the council's chief executive officer will forward a copy of that referral notice to the mayor and all councillors as a confidential document. I'm just wondering, is that is that a legislative requirement, or is that something that we've, is that negotiable on that particular 3.4.1? Thank you.
No, that's a statutory requirement. Through you, Mr Mayor, sorry. That is a statutory requirement, councillor. And the amendment, it's only slightly been amended, this policy, where the original ones that we referred it to the OIA or externally, to the tribunal. That's been removed now, so we can investigate it ourselves as direction from the mayor, who is the main investigating officer.
So, Mr Mayor, just a supplementary question. So what you're saying is we had choice there, or that's now what we're doing is, or is there an option just to go externally without taking it back to the mayor? Is that, yeah.
No, sorry. The mayor is the lead investigator. There has the option. The last policy stated that we go send it to the complaint to the tribunal, external, to investigate. However, the change to the policy now is that the mayor has the option there we have an internal investigator. We engage our own investigator on the recommendation of the list that is suggested by the tribunal who are suitably qualified. It takes that extra step out of it, and that way we can manage the timeframes of the investigation.
Yeah, thanks, General Manager. Is that clear, Councillor Duff? Okay, very good. So any further discussion on that recommendation? Okay, we're all comfortable with the document at this point in time. So those in favour of the recommendation, thank you all. Pass that through unanimously. Okay, the item 5.11, status of outstanding debtors overdue by 90 days at 62. And you can see the information contained there, the report on our outstanding debtors. And the officer's recommendation is that this report on the status of outstanding debtor accounts that have been outstanding for 90 days or more be received for information. General Manager, we might just hand over to you and your team to provide us with a little bit of more information on the background of this, if you could. Thank you, and then we'll seek someone to move such.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The finance staff have been working vigorously on clearing these accumulated debts over a period of time. We've actually appointed an officer to assist us in pursuing these outstanding debts. And all credit to the department. We've cleared a lot of the debt. However, there's still debt remaining. You'll see the cumulative debt there's $170,000 at the moment. They're over 90 days, which is 29% of our total debt. Now, we have taken, the statistics are there outlining the percentages there of the ones that have gone to R&R, which is the debt recovery association, and also the ones that we have now before a court. So, and then the ones that we're pursuing. We're looking at it, there's about approximately $9,000 there that we may not be able to recover, but that we've accounted for that in our provisions. So that won't be an impact on council's revenue at all. So is that enough clarification, or do you provide more, Mr Mayor?
Yeah, thanks, General Manager. Just a question on that. Is there the capacity in some cases to, I know we've looked at this before, refer some of these off to SBR, and then we move the debt to them and off our books?
Yes, no, yes. They're not included in this. Unfortunately, this is only our sundry debtors, but I'll just request that Manager Selina here just sort of clarifies that a bit more and explains we have different systems where the debts actually sit in R&R or CES. So I'll just hand over.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report that we've brought through today is to give you guys an understanding of where the debt collection is up to for our sundry debtors. So we have some of these sundry debtors in our old system, which is P&R, and some in the new system, which we class as AR, and it's in CES. The SPRS is actually one of the P&R modules, and we have a number of them. We have certs, RAMs, plus PBE. That is not part of this report. We're following up with the debt collection on that, and that will be another report for information for council at a later date.
Excellent. Thanks, Manager. That clarifies that well and truly. GM, anything further on that? Thank you.
Sorry, that's not on, I beg your pardon. We've previously brought slides and an explanation to educate council on the debts previously. And a lot of the debt there is out of the statute of limitation range. Some of it is not worth pursuing because it costs us more to pursue some minor debts. And we will be bringing that to council to workshop that just for council's information to see where we're sitting currently. But like I said, the finance team have done a wonderful job of really pursuing these debts and minimising the impact to council. There's been a lot that has been historical, and we've done our utmost to clear that debt.
Thanks very much, General Manager, and thanks for keeping a close eye on these debtors. Very important, and it is a work in progress, of course, and good to see that we're tracking in the right direction. Okay, so I'll move that the debtor accounts, that the report on the status of debtor accounts outstanding for 90 days or more be received by the Committee for Information. Seconder for such. Thanks, Councillor Jones. Those in favour? Okay, recommendation's been passed unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, let's now move on to the last item of business, item 5.12, business systems, and I believe it's SAS, is it called SAS? Sas Migration. Okay, so if we go to 66, of course this is a very important body of work being undertaken in council, and we've got a recommendation here from the officers that the Finance and Corporate Standing Committee project status update be received for information, and I'll now hand over to General Manager and welcome Anthony to provide us with some detail around the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, this is a very, very important project. It affects everything within council, and we're very appreciative of the support that council has given us financially to deliver this project. So the business systems team, led by Manager Anthony, has been diligently working at this, and they've been coming up with some great outcomes. So I'll just hand over to him, to Manager Anthony. He can give you the technical version. I a lot of times can't understand it, but I'll hand it over to him.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. So basically the report delivered today is just to give you a bit of a brief. The actual project plan is a more of a higher level document to actually explain the key phases and milestones within that actual project. The highlighted sections in yellow there are actually a bit of a progress on where that's actually travelling. We have appointed a project lead to assist within that actual project, and we are kind of working tentatively towards a March 21st going live date. We need to firm that and lock that in. But the actual phases there, the discovery, configure, accept and deploy. We've done kickoffs and design. There's a lot of prerequisites actually being identified to make the actual system operate within the cloud. Some of our actual procedures and workflows and things like that had to be tuned up and modified and reconfigured so it'll actually operate there successfully. There's been a data upload of our actual our database to sit within the actual cloud platform, and Tech One is configuring that at the moment, and then we'll release it to us in a test phase, and that we'll go through. In the sits at the accept phase, we go through a pretty vigorous process. We're developing a lot of test plans where we'll actually run a process from end to end and involve all our staff to actually conduct that and sign off to approve, make sure that actually the product will work when we reach that go live date.
Thanks very much, Manager. Just I can just look here there. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done in this project involving the key user training and then the user acceptance testing. Of course, it's always that human element of the implementation of these systems, which is very important, can't be overlooked. March next year, are you still feeling confident in light of the fact that we'll have a Christmas, New Year break? Confident. I'm sure Council would be supportive of whatever time you need to get this right. So, keen to get some feedback on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the moment, with the information we have available to us, we believe that is actually achievable. But there's a few. We need a bit more confirmation on the resourcing side of things from Tech One to be able to confirm that 100% at this stage.
Thank you, Manager. And of course, Council's always open to getting your feedback, and from General Manager to CEO, are they under any resourcing constraints that are inhibiting the progress of this? Significant investment by Council has significant benefits for Council in terms of better, more complete information that informs Council for its decision-making move forward. We've talked a lot about evidence-based decision-making. This is going to leap us forward a long way once it's fully implemented and operational, I believe, Mr. CEO.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Correct, and acknowledge the manager and his team and the work they're doing. I'm probably not as technical, but I've had this described to me as running a marathon whilst having your bypass on your heart at the same time, because these systems are literally the core to everything we do. Some of the issues we've had in the past is, and it's not the public, well, it affects the public interface, but it's that back office system that allows us to have much better confidence in the data and also have a much more seamless transition between the different sections of the system so that everything talks to each other and you have centralised databases. Customer registrations in other councils and other places I've been where we've done similar processes, a customer's name and address may be entered into, well, where I was at the time, it was 9 separate databases. So Council would enter 8 of them and get them all correct. And of course, when the 9th one went out and it had the wrong address on it, the customer would come back quite rightly and quite cross and saying, look, I've told you 2 or 3 times and 8 databases have been updated. So it's just, it's little things like that that just make such a difference to the customer service and that front end delivery. And this is a project that we really need to get right. It's been used quite a bit today, but it is a really important process that won't necessarily have a public face, but it is exceptionally important to the organisation.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. CEO. I would imagine it's going to make the lives of our staff, once they embrace and adopt the new technology, ultimately, it will make their lives it'll make their jobs here. It'll make them more efficient, but make their jobs, I would think, much less frustrating. Make us more, our performance as a council much improved, and of course allow us to achieve some efficiencies around our administrative processing. Implement a whole range of initiatives that I know Council's keen to see when we start to talk about, bringing timesheets online and getting better reporting outcomes for Council that inform Council on decision making. At the moment, it's really challenging and time consuming for staff to produce many of the reports that I know you as councillors are often looking for. I'm often looking for, but with this system, we can expect to see, as we move through the latter part of next year, I'm expecting we're going to see some real improvements in that space. So thanks again. I'd like to endorse and reaffirm CEO Mark's comments, General Manager and Manager. This is a really important body of work for our council, so thank you. Okay, well I'll be then pleased to move that the Finance and Corporate Standing Committee project status update be received for information. Have a seconder for such? Thanks, Councillor Duff. And before we put that to the vote, is there anything anyone else want to discuss the matter? Manager Anthony, anything else you wanted to add, General Manager, for Council at this stage?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate what you have just said there, Mr Mayor, that the amount of efficiencies that the business systems team has identified while going through this process, council can only benefit from it. And it's identifying things that have always been done that way and why. And I'm very, very impressed with the amount of feedback that I'm receiving from this team, where they have been as part of the process mapping that Mead Perry are doing, but also the implementation of the SAS, that they are really picking these efficiencies up. And like I said, that will really affect our bottom line and our efficiencies within the council as a whole. So it's a really exciting project. It's huge.
Yeah, thanks very much, General Manager. This isn't just about computers. This is about procedures and processes and modifying them as part of its implementation. So it's very much an overhaul of council's operating procedures and business systems right across the organisation. That in itself is a mammoth task, but once complete, has significant benefits. So, yeah, thank you very much. It's a massive job, but very important work. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you. Certainly, I admire that. I really do. Having a culture where you can challenge your current way of doing things and think about how you may be able to do it differently, I think is really critical to the way in which we move forward, particularly noting, that councillors are consistently under budget and financial strain. I think every single meeting, every single discussion that we have, it's something that is of concern into the future. And certainly I just think when it comes to efficiencies and celebrating some of these outcomes, I'd just like to see, and I don't know how it may be able to be done, but how we may be able to track some of these improvements over time, because I'm mindful that some of these could only be very small changes, but could actually be worth quite significant money to the business. So I'm not sure how you may be able to deliver on that, but if there's a way we can cost some of these efficiencies or improvements during this period, or document them and record them, I'd just really be interested in that, noting that we have made significant investment as a region in improving our system. So I guess it's just being able to articulate that return on the investment to our ratepayers and across the region, and noting that we are setting up the organisation for the future. So that's my thoughts anyway in relation to this really important project.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. And it may be a matter of, as we get through implementation phase and start to see some of those investment returns happening, some real good news stories, we can pick up on certain examples that we can then articulate to council and share with the broader community as we identify them moving forward. Yeah.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, a lot of it is measurable. A lot isn't, but we certainly will be looking at that as well and proudly present that to council, because I agree with you, Councillor. It's exciting times, and it makes you feel good that we can sort of look at these and everyone benefits from it.
Yeah, and of course it's not always the quantitative outcomes, is it? It's the qualitative stuff in terms of staff actually being able to enjoy their job more by not having to deal with old, frustrating systems that are very clunky. So I know, CEO Mark, this is close to your heart. This is one of your commitments as coming on board as our CEO, is to get us at the forefront of this space as a regional council, and I want to commend you on that commitment and commend General Manager under your leadership and Manager Anthony for the work that you and your team are doing. I'll say again, it's a significant initiative for our council. Okay, right. Well, I think I've moved that, and I think Councillor Duff, you've seconded it. So we'll put that recommendation to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you all. Recommendation has been passed unanimously. Okay, there are no items for the confidential section of the Standing Committee meeting, so with such I'll now move to close the Standing Committee meeting for Finance and Corporate Committee at 11:45 a.m. And thank you all for your attendance. Have a wonderful rest of day.